West Ham's pre-season is well and underway. You always think of pre-season as a fresh start. It's a new season. But unfortunately, there's just one player that I can't seem to give a fresh start to. And unfortunately, that is Thomas Soucek. Now, he's been out of form for, I would say, about a year and a half, going on to 2 years now. When he first came to the club for his fee, he was really instrumental in building that midfield partnership with Declan Rice. A lot of people thought that because Declan Rice was going forward, that's why his form sort of fluttered. But in the prime Declan Rice Soucek partnership, he was absolutely brilliant, physical, scoring goals left, right, and centre. Seemed to be good on the ball. I don't know if he just sort of went under the radar in terms of that because he scored so many goals and was being so instrumental in the West Ham side. No one actually realised that he was terrible at passing and he wasn't very good and very comfortable on the ball. But he's just fallen off a cliff, unfortunately, completely fallen off a cliff. At one point, he was being linked for about £50 million, I think, for Bayern Munich or something along that fee when he was in his prime at West Ham. But unfortunately now, he's just not a player I can see redeeming himself. And I think it's a good time for him to leave. You know, he's just won the Conference League with us in Prague. He's getting to that sort of stage of his career where he wants to think where he's going to go. And I just think there's so many better options out there for us. Now, Moyes continue sort of protection of Soucek. I mean, he was our captain, for Christ's sake, in the pre-season friendly. How is he a captain? You know, how is he a captain? Don't get me wrong, the nicest bloke you'll ever meet. He is lovely, and I bet he's an absolute character around the dressing room. I've got absolutely nothing against him as a person. I think he works his absolute socks off, and he's an absolute true professional. There's very few players I can name to you that would put their body on the line as much as Thomas Soucek has. His commitment to West Ham has never been. No way am I going to question that. But unfortunately, at some point, you have to sit there and say to yourself, am I being sentimental? Am I being too loyal? Have I got to do what's best for West Ham United? And unfortunately, selling Thomas Soucek and getting a replacement is part of that. We just have to sell him. He's just not good enough whatsoever. And that is a little bit risky because we already need a new CDM this summer in maybe like a new number 6. Paqueta's got his place in the squad and we need a new number 8. So it is risky to have a complete rebuild of the team in that getting rid of Thomas Soucek, but I don't see his place in the side. And a player who's gone under the radar, you know, we've been linked with Fofana, Yusuf Fofana of Monaco, who's a Tim Steiden sort of pick. We've also been linked with Conor Gallagher, which I really hope does happen. Our interest in Paulinho has fluttered. That video may be out already or it may be coming soon. But Alvarez is also someone who's been linked. But one player who's really flown under the radar for me, and I'm very surprised actually, is someone we've been supposedly interested in. This was first cited by, I believe, Fabrizio Romano, yet to be confirmed by XW employees. So I don't know how much you want to read into it, but apparently we are interested in Philip Billing. Now, this just makes so much sense for West Ham. So much sense. You know, he's 6'6", so you're keeping your physical presence, your physical prowess with Philip Billing, and you're not losing that when you've lost Thomas Soucek. He is so good on the ball, so good at driving forward. For someone who's 6'6", he is so confident and so good at just driving forward with the ball. And he's got a brilliant eye for goal. He's someone that I thought would be quite defensive, someone I didn't think would be as instrumental in that Bournemouth side. But he scored so many goals for Bournemouth last year, making those late runs into the box as Thomas Soucek used to do. But also you've got that extra edge of he will just take the ball and just drive it forward. He's so powerful, so strong. And we know that David Moyes loves his big physical players. You know, at Everton, it was Marouane Fellaini. He then re-signed at Manchester United because that's what he wanted there. And then, of course, at West Ham, he signed Thomas Soucek, who was his big physical centre midfielder. And I just think this makes so much sense for West Ham. I don't think it would cost too much either. I think probably in the region of around 25 to 30 million pounds. Obviously, we've got the lure of European football. Bournemouth, they're doing some good business, but they are still at risk of getting relegated next season. If you're Philip Billing, you're probably sitting there thinking, you know, do I want to take a risk and go down with Bournemouth, or do I want to go to West Ham, who are basically, I would say, 95% going to stay up? I don't see us being in the same trouble we were last season. I don't think players or pundits will either. And I get to play European football, which I'm not going to do at Bournemouth. There's no way I'm going to do that at Bournemouth. So I think he could easily push a move through. And I just think it'd be a massive upgrade. You know, you've got Thomas Soucek's biggest sort of weaknesses for me is that he's weak on the ball. He doesn't show for a pass. I remember a brilliant quote by X and Dave on the podcast was that he ghosts quite a lot. He doesn't show for the ball. It's almost like he tries to run away for the ball. And when I used to play football, I was a bit of a left back, and I didn't really like to get on the ball too much. I was more about the defensive capability. So whenever someone was on the ball, I got really nervous, and I didn't really want anyone to pass to me. So I didn't really make myself available or show for a pass. I just tended to drop back or just make a really, really late run into the box. And I feel like that is what Soucek is. He's not confident on the ball at all. I actually think he would do quite well at another club where he's just allowed to be that utility player, the player who wins the ball in the air, goes into the box, doesn't have to have much of an involvement on the ball. And unfortunately, with the way that we play the quick in transition football, we're not allowed to allow a player to ghost like that. We don't have the luxury of being able to do that. We have to be so quick in transition to catch teams on the counter that we need to be able to feed the ball to essentially every midfielder to get a good counter attack going. And he just doesn't fit that bill at all. Who does fit the bill? Philip Billing. Yeah, that was bloody awful. But you get where I'm coming from. Yeah, you get where I'm coming from. I just think he'd be a very smart signing for West Ham. And we can also sign another player like Gallagher, who is, I'd say, more of a number 8, a proper number 8, whereas I think Billing is more of an advanced number 8, almost like a ghost striker at times. And he does have his weaknesses. He's not, technically the best player in the world. I think Gallagher's probably a bit better on the ball defensively as well because he's quite tall. He's going to get run past quite a lot. But he gives you that defensive area of, he's very aerial. So he'll be able to defend better for corners, be able to score more corners. Oddly enough, he doesn't actually score with his head too much. He scores a lot more from making these runs into the box and scoring. But for me, I think this would just be a very smart signing for West Ham, especially when you think it would be almost like a straight swap. I don't think Bournemouth would be interested in taking him, but if we got around like 20 million for Soucek and then signed Billing, who is younger, and I think better for, let's say 30, 35 million, you're only paying 15 million pounds for Philip Billing. That's smart business in my eyes. That's really smart business. And I really hope that it's not just interest. I do hope it's someone we're after because it is someone I've actually been admiring for quite a long time. And I was hoping that Bournemouth would go down because it meant that potentially it would be a lot easier to land him. But I don't think it'd be too difficult to convince Philip Billing to come to the club. And as much as I love Thomas Soucek from a personal point of view, I think his time at West Ham United just has to end.